Hey, I'm Julie. And if you've done the work, you've read the books, hired the coaches, practiced the techniques, and you can walk into a room and look the part, but the moment the pressure's on, you're right back to where you started. Well, this episode's for you. That urgency, that need to prove yourself, that exhaustion afterwards. You thought you changed, but under pressure, the old version of you shows up every time. And by the end of this episode, you'll understand why that keeps happening, and you'll have something you can actually use to start shifting it. All right. So in today's show, we are looking at why calm confidence isn't a skill. Well, if it isn't a skill, what is it then? Well, it's an identity shift. And we're going to look at why the old version of you keeps showing up when the stakes get high. Most personal development, right, teaches us what to do, but very little teaches us how to change who we believe we are. Now, let's look at some of the frustrations that you might feel that are very familiar to you. You might replay conversations after they've happened over and over again in your head. You're rehearsing a conversation before they happen. You know that feeling when maybe you know someone quite well and you can almost play that conversation in your head before it even happens, right? You know, you'll say this, they say that, but that's about rehearsing the conversation before they happen. Maybe you over-explain yourself when someone questions you. It could be that you struggle to switch off at night because your mind is still processing. And this is very, very common in us high achievers, right? Because we're overplaying. Our mind wants to work logically all the time and it just overthinks, and then that can impact our sleep. It could be that you feel confident until someone actually challenges you. And that's the thing, isn't it? You think you know what you're doing and what you're saying, and then suddenly you think, I don't know now. So it might be that you know what to do, but you still don't do it because, as we say, knowing and doing are not the same thing. And also, I want you to remember that these things aren't just work related. They can be any aspect of your life. And you could find that, you have a certain mask when you're at work and you behave in a certain way. And when you're at home, you have a different mask. We have masks for life everywhere we go, right? We behave differently, but everything is still being triggered from inside in your identity box. Now, why doesn't this stuff work then? You might be asking yourself. Well, that's because when you're doing such things, you're working with the wrong layer. Or it might even be that you have a physical reaction before. So it might be your chest tightens, something like that. Your heart is pounding. It might be that you go beetroot red face, right? Or maybe you do all of those things. But equally, I wonder if you actually stop to notice. And that is the biggest thing. I want you just to think about that for a moment, because if you're not even stopping to notice what's going on, then it's just whoosh, going right over your head. Then you're not even acknowledging that you need to do something different. The first step really, I suppose, is acknowledgement. So let's have a look at the distinction between skill and identity. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying confidence training and things like that doesn't work. It absolutely does, right? I trained as a counsellor, I trained as a coach, and obviously 35 years in the corporate, right? It's always about building your confidence. It's particularly those type of training courses where it's building your confidence, right? There's a lot of things that confident coaches teach you that absolutely have value. And I'll be honest, I teach these to my clients too, right? So I'm not saying they don't work, but they do. But the difference is we do the subconscious work as well. Things like affirmations, things like visualization, which is so powerful, breath work, getting into that power pose so that you can be that version of you that you want to be, learning different communication skills, public speaking as well was obviously super important. Mindset work covers lots of areas, all really, really great. And 100% they do work. However, let's be honest for a moment, right? Like I said, I've done many courses. And I've come back, especially if I put that into a work context, right? You've come back and you're so excited, you're so enthusiastic, and you're coming in guns blazing, right? And then you might even get a bit annoying because you start saying to other people, oh, you should be doing this. Now, we've all been there, right? Don't lie. Let's be honest here. And we've come back guns blazing, right? But after a while, it starts to wean off, doesn't it? And probably by about a week, you're probably back to doing what you was doing before. But why? Because you're working with the behaviour. You're not working with the subconscious programming. Now, for me, until I did the deep subconscious work, nothing really changed for me either. But the more I've done, the deeper I've gone. I've peeled away more levels of my onion. And sometimes I still hit those times when I'm like, oh my God, I feel, this is not good. Now, it's not that all the work I've done in the past has not worked. It's the fact that I keep pushing myself forward. So therefore, I'm coming up to a brand new wall, one that I've not seen before. And it could be that something from my past that I've not picked up before is linked to that. Or it might be something more recent. But the point is, the more you're pushing yourself forward, the more you're going to hit these feelings, which is good. It's a good thing. Because if you're not hitting any of these, it means you're not really pushing yourself, right? You're just comfortable. I've got a nice little image for you coming up. So imagine yourself inside your box, right? On the left-hand side there, you've got some examples of some of the things that I've done or coaches have done. But sitting in that box, I might have the belief, well, I did have these beliefs, right? That I wasn't good enough. I must prove myself. Well, what if I get it wrong? You know, you've got to be strong. You've got to keep everyone happy. And this is the thing, right? We can be in that box, being the achiever, the responsible one, the strong one, the perfectionist, the people pleaser. And then we spend years and years and years trying to improve that person inside that box, instead of questioning whether that box itself is still serving us. That's why people, you know, get qualification after qualification, strategy after strategy, yet they still feel stuck. They never quite believe they are good enough for it, right? That's when the imposter kicks in. That's when the fear kicks in. Well, imposter syndrome is all linked to fear anyway. But the shift happens when we change the relationship with the box. Does that make sense? So what's actually happening when the old version of you shows up under pressure? It's picking up all these limited beliefs in your subconscious programming. You can't help it and you can't control it, because that your body is reacting before a thought was even coming to your head. So it's not even like you thought that you're rubbish. You haven't even had a chance to do that. The physical reaction is hitting, aka your subconscious programming, your body that doesn't feel safe. That is kicking in before you've even thought about what's going on around you. So this is what we're going to really look at today. We're going to look at the version of you that learned to overachieve, who stayed hypervigilant, who was people pleasing, overthinking, or maybe they just stayed small. Maybe that you were just trying to sabotage yourself. But what it was doing, it was trying to protect you. And at some point, your nervous system decided that perhaps the behaviours were necessary to keep you safe. And let's be honest, right? It's been doing a bloody good job. And that's why mindset work alone often fails, because the pressure increases. So the more there's pressure, the more we forget the conscious things we need to be doing, because our nervous system has kicked in, and that will always choose safety over logic. So you can understand exactly why you do something, and you can have years of insight, you can have loads of understanding, but nothing's going to change if the subconscious program is still the same. All right. I get clients all the time, right? Say they've come for lack of confidence or anxiety. When do you think it started? Well, I think it started 2 years ago when this and this and this happens. And I'm like, oh, well, I know straight away that's not the case, because I've already got a bit of history about them. And I'm like, that's interesting, because you've already said that your parents split up when you were 5 and da 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 da. So already in my head, I'm like, no way does that come from 2 years ago, right? So you spend that time trying to working it out, but you're using that 5% conscious, right? Remember, we've got 5% conscious, 95 subconscious, which is the whole of your mind and body connection. So you might think you know what it is. And even if you have got it right, that's great. But how does that help if your body hasn't been upgraded to actually deal with that? And then what happens? You just stay stuck, because insight alone doesn't create transformation. Identity is revealed when we're really, really under pressure. It doesn't really show its head when life is easy, right? So if nothing's going wrong, it's not going to show itself. But if nothing's going wrong, you need to be asking yourself, what am I doing with my life right now? Because maybe I'm not pushing myself. And that doesn't mean that sounds really wrong. You know, you have to think about something's gone wrong. But if we're not pushing ourselves and doing things and moving forward, we're not likely to be hitting these little extra pressures, right? And many people are comfortable with that, and I'm not knocking that. That was never for me. I always wanted to do different things. But, you know, if you're comfortable living the life you're living in, that's absolutely fine. But it's about being honest. Are you living that life because that's what you truly want, or are you living that life based on old limiting beliefs, feelings and emotions? That's the question. All right. Let's look at what calm confidence actually feels like. And now, I would wager that many of you don't even know what that would feel like, right? Because I didn't. They might think that being confident is about being loud and being the one seen in the room, being outgoing, someone who doesn't come across ever as being nervous, always seems certain. Well, I don't really believe that's what confidence is. The most confident people I've met aren't the loudest people. They're the people who trust themselves to handle whatever happens. True confidence isn't loud certainty. It's feeling safe inside uncertainty. So in other words, it's okay to feel that we're pushing ourselves and we might not know what the outcome's going to be, but it's about being okay with that and knowing and trusting that everything's going to work out. All right, it's quite a big difference. Now let's look at a more positive identity box. And this is what we want to be moving to. So here's what identity level confidence looks like, right? You pause before you're reacting. So when you're in a tricky situation that before you might have like overreacted by, now you pause and maybe process what's going on, right? You might start rehearsing conversations for hours because you don't need to now because you're confident in who you are. And maybe you even understand that actually the person that you're going to be having that conversation with, they don't necessarily know this stuff and haven't done the work on themselves. So they're going to be reacting on their experiences that happened way down in their identity line, aka childhood, early adulthood. So actually, maybe you can look at them a bit differently, right? So once you kind of understand this type of behavior, you can do things differently all round. And actually, the way you react then might make a difference to how they react. Because if you've got a situation where it's going to be quite a high tension meeting, discussion, whatever it is, whether it's at home or in the office, wherever, if you go into that meeting already kind of a little bit wired, they probably come into the meeting the same way. You're already at loggerheads before you even start. But once you can start understanding how you feel, and maybe the other person does as well, that would be great. But if they don't, you can't control anyone else but yourself. But by changing the way you're going into this, that could make a huge difference. All right. That could really, really help make a difference into what's going on with you. So maybe you don't rehearse every conversation. Maybe you recover faster when things go wrong. And that's important as well, because as I say, once you know this stuff, you can start moving forward. It could be that, you're happy being visible. Maybe you have to go on social media. Maybe you have to show up in meetings. Maybe you have to put yourself through things that don't feel comfortable. But after you've done it, you don't collapse afterwards. Maybe you make decisions more easily because you're in flow and you're not second guessing, right? So when you're making a decision, when you feel that your identity has been updated and you know you are enough, you're not going to question some of those things as much. So therefore you can make clear, decisive decisions. And then you can rest without guilt, which is really important, because then you're going to go to bed and you're happy with how your day's been, you're happy with how you've behaved, and maybe you feel safe in certainty. And maybe you feel safe in uncertainty. But the point is your body starts to feel safe. And one of the biggest ones is you don't need everyone's approval. So that people pleaser is no longer, right? Because you're like, well, this is what I've done. I've done this presentation. I'm very happy with it. I'm confident in what I'm doing. Well, if you don't like it, then that's your issue. You're going to go, oh, well, I'm going to see it differently. And that isn't discipline. And that certainly isn't willpower either. That's the difference between being the version of you showing up versus the version of you in your identity, in that negative identity box. Let's have a look at how we can actually start shifting, this identity, not just the behaviour. Here's what I want to give you today. It's a question that you can use this week to start working on the identity layer instead of the behavioural layer, right? So remember we said that all that conscious work is behavioural, but we need to go deeper. We need to go into that identity. And the questions I'm going to give you is kind of like an entry point into this. So I want you just to stop and think about this question. Who am I being right now and who do I want to be? Right? That's not about what am I going to do? Not what should I do differently? Who am I being? All right. And here's how we're going to use it. So what we're going to do you remember earlier I said that we need to make sure that we can catch these things. We need to be aware that things are happening. And this is where this type of process works. So for this one, step number one is we need to catch the moment. So you're about to walk into a meeting maybe, and you notice that tightness. There's that urgency. There's that over preparing that's really started to kick in. Maybe you feel like you need to really prove yourself. Those examples really are what we would call the cue. So those are things that you want to notice. And again, if you've never noticed anything, if you do nothing else this week, just start noticing. Maybe move on to the question afterwards, but just start by noticing. Then the second point is to ask the question, who am I being right now? And I want you to name it honestly. Is it that you're being the high achiever again, the people pleaser? Maybe you feel like you need to be that perfectionist or the one that needs everyone to like me, all right? And step number 3 is choose the shift. Who do I want to be? Well, I'd like to be the confident one. I'd like to be the calm leader, the one that feels grounded and professional, the person who trusts themselves. And that's really important, right? The person who knows they're enough. And then what you do, you take one deep breath in and out. Feel your feet on the floor. And then you walk into that room as that version of you, the one who does believe that they're good enough. All right. So scenario number 1, right? This could be like a high stake meeting, something like that, somewhere where you need to be out there performing, right? As always, you've over prepared, right? Because that's what you do. You've nailed this presentation. You keep changing the slides because obviously it's not good enough, is it, right? So you're doing all these last minute tweaks, right? You're rehearsing it over and over again, probably the 15th time, and then on the 16th time you've changed it again, right? You can feel your chest tightening, and you're already thinking about who or what might challenge you when you're in that meeting, because you already know who's going to be there, right? Oh, what's Bob going to think of me? Is he going to challenge me? You're already overthinking, overreacting before you've even got in the room, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to catch the moment. So that might be the over preparation is the cue, all right? Ask the question, who am I being right now? The one who has to get this perfect, or the one that they're just going to see through? What is it? So that's the question you're asking. Then you're going to choose the shift. Who do I want to be? The one who knows their stuff and can handle questions as they come, the one that comes across confident, the one people really want to listen to. So then you're going to put your feet on the floor, take a deep breath in and out, and then you're going to walk in the room as that version that you've chosen to be. Does that make sense? Well, let's do another scenario, right? This could be a difficult conversation. Maybe it's you need to give someone some feedback, but it's not necessarily great, right? And you've been putting it off maybe 1 or 2 weeks, keep maybe moving the meeting back, whatever it is, right? You probably scripted it, it's in your head 100 times. You might have even prepared it on an email. You might have even put it in a text message, who knows, right? And you really are dreading their reaction. Okay, so catch the moment, that avoidance, the over scripting, that is the cue, right? And then next you're going to ask the question, who am I being right now? The one who needs everyone to like me, or the one that can't handle conflict? Maybe it's both, right? So then you choose the shift. Who do I want to be then? I want to be the one who can say hard things to somebody, but with kindness, and stay calm and steady with whatever comes out. Because at the end of the day, you've got to deliver this news. You might not like it. You might not even agree with it, but you want to be that person that can do that with firmness, but kindness, right? So you put your feet on the floor, deep breath in and out, and have the conversation as that version that you've chosen to be. Which scenario landed more for you? Was it the high stakes meeting or the difficult conversation that you've been putting off? Here's what's possible when this becomes how you operate. All right, so let's look at some identity shifts. When you start working on your identity instead of behavior, everything changes, right? So what do we mean by that? Well, you stop performing confidence and start actually feeling it. All right, so as a performer, you can come across really confident, but inside you just didn't feel it at all. But how lovely would it be if you could actually be confident and feel confident and actually enjoy it? You stop exhausting yourself trying to manage how you come across. And when we're overthinking and things like that, right, it is really, really exhausting. And that's because we're using our imagination again, right? And our imagination is our most powerful tool that we have. But when you're anxious and you're overthinking and everything, and you're stressed and all that good stuff, right? You're using your imagination in a really magnificent way, but unfortunately very negatively. So it does become draining because you can't rest. It is just exhausting. So when you can start flipping that and start using your imagining in a really positive way, you kind of free yourself from that negative energy and start having positive energy, and it feels lighter and it's less exhausting. And then maybe when you are being visible, you don't collapse afterwards because again, you feel good enough, you know your stuff, you know who you are. You stop needing the room to validate you before you can relax. Can you imagine that? How cool that would be? The calm, decisive version of you isn't something you need to build. It's what's left when your body no longer believes every moment is a threat. So in other words, once we can start calming our mind and body and our nervous system starts to feel safe and certain, then we can be freer. And I'll tell you what, it is really amazing when you can start understanding this and start making these changes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't get it right all the time, but I have so much more awareness about what's going on now, and I can go away and go and take a look at it and go and have a word with myself and find out what's really happening. And there's loads more for me to work through. But I'm really happy with the journey that I'm on, because I wouldn't have been able to sit like this before. I might have done it, but I would have been that swan with the legs that underneath that's running 10 to the dozen. Whereas, rightly or wrongly, I feel quite calm and confident doing this. I know I'm not going to please everybody. Not everyone's going to like me, but that's okay. I'm not here to like everyone to like me. It's not a personality contest. I just need to find the people that relate to me. But that's what confidence can bring you, that you're not worried about what other people think all the time. So just remembering that calm confidence isn't a skill you practice. It's what's left when you stop running the old survival patterns. What I want you to do this week then is pick one moment in the next 7 days when you usually feel that tightness, or you've noticed that there's a lot of urgency going on, or you're trying to prove yourself, whether it's in a meeting, whether it's at home, whether it's a conversation or a decision, right? I want you to notice it and use the identity check question. Who am I being right now? Name it. Who do I want to be? Choose it. And just take that deep breath, feet on the floor, and just choose it and be it. Just do it once, see what happens. Now, if any of this has been relevant to you and you've recognised yourself in any of this today, and if you're someone who looks confident on the outside but still feels like you're proving, pushing and performing on the inside, I want you to know something, and this is important. You're not broken. You're not failing. You're simply operating for an identity that once kept you safe. But that's an old identity. You don't need that anymore. And you can change those identities. Now, if you'd like support switching off that mental noise at night, right, I've created a free audio called the Evening Upgrade. And it's designed to help you calm your mind and body and stop rehearsing tomorrow before you've even finished. It's totally free. And I think this will be a really good starting point if you want to start calming your mind and calming your body. And this, I've created it to just go through the process of just relaxing your whole body. And remember, you're not building a new person. You're getting out of the way of the person who's always there. Now, true confidence isn't loud certainty. It's feeling safe inside uncertainty. And identity is revealed when you're under pressure, not when life is calm. So when you're in pressure situations most of the day, even maybe most of the evening, that's when your identity is really going to be revealed. All right, so just a run through of the questions. Number 1, catch the moment. Number 2, ask who am I being right now? And number 3, choose who do I want to be? And then do your little breath. Now, if you're wondering what signs you might see that are shifting, you might start to pause before reacting. You might stop rehearsing conversations beforehand. You might recover faster after setbacks. You might stop over-explaining, and you can be visible without collapsing afterwards, making decisions without spiraling, and resting without guilt. Let's just put our happy image back up. We don't want that old identity box of not being good enough. We want this updated identity, a new box, a new identity, a new way of showing up in this world. So I've been Julie. Thank you very much for watching.